So good morning, good evening. I'm Clarity West, and I'm here about to start our EFL teacher interview with Helen Purcell. She is the director of the Living Wisdom School in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, and a teacher for over 50 years. So I'm very excited to interview her today, and we'll jump right in. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Clarity.
Hi, good evening.
Good to see you.
Good morning for me, good evening for you.
What time is it where you are?
It's 9 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
Just starting my day.
This is kind of a miracle. I'm ending a very intense day. It's
Are
fine.
you?
It'll be a nice way to end it.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was wondering, do you need a minute to catch your breath or?
No,
Okay.
I just sat for a few moments. It's
Okay,
fine.
good. That's great.
I did go to the EFL conference, and it was quite fabulous, actually, and
Nice.
inspiring, because you could see that all over the world, people were catching fire with this.
And it's such a perfect time for it too, I feel, just with everything that's going on and people being more at home with their children. It's really the time for people to be able to tap into these tools online. So, yeah.
Have you taught Clarity?
You know what? It's funny. I've dabbled for such a long time with EFL and in the EFL world, and I've led many art classes for children. And I've also worked with children in schools with yoga and mindfulness. But I've never had my own class. And just before I was really ready to dive in, I got pregnant and I had my first child 2 years ago. So
My goodness. Little girl or little boy?
little boy, his name's Kala, and he just turned 2. So
Oh, congratulations.
oh, thanks. Yeah.
Well, once you get involved in parenthood, all of this becomes ever more relevant.
Are you a mother yourself?
I am. I'm a grandmother as well. But that whole thing of seeing that spark of a child grow in front of your very eyes, and watching them move in the world almost daily in a new way when they're that little, their enthusiasm, their joy, all of that in learning before they get to school. And you just want to preserve that. And that, I believe, is at one of the very core pieces of education for life.
I'd love to hear you talk more about that, because I was reading your document last night that you wrote on, well, it was titled something with kindergarten.
Yes.
What is the name of that document?
I don't know.
Okay. You wrote it.
Website that's so many years ago.
Okay.
But let me just say, one of the things that I have come ever more completely and deeply to cherish about what Master and Swami have given us in terms of education for life is that notion of the combination of joyful learning, so that it's not just enough for children to learn. And there's such a seriousness about learning today that's based on a whole competitive spirit, which is not for the joy of learning, but to get something out of it, to get somewhere out of it, to be better than somebody else. And that's the antithesis of what we're about. You have a little 2-year-old, so you're seeing firsthand what it means for a little one to just be so thrilled when they learn something new or see something new, whether it's a small bird or whatever. And then somehow or another, they've cataloged this in terms of the joy level of children. And studies have shown that by the time children reach 4th grade, their joy level has gone down precipitously.
Wow.
Yeah. So what's that all about? Well, part of it is a commentary, I think, on the school system as we know it in the mainstream, And I'm not pointing at the teachers. The teachers are pretty much at the mercy of other forces. And they're cultural forces. It's around what you can do to earn more money. What do you have to become? Where do you have to go to college? How can you compete with a better grade point? Oh, all of those, which with education for life, you're on a completely different trajectory. It gets you not only to the same place, but I think even further, or I would say deeper, than if you went the normal kind of average way. And that place, that is because there's an emphasis on a couple of things. One is the joy in learning. If the joy is there, the learning comes, and the desire to learn more. And the joy comes, I believe, going all the way back to Master, when he talked about every child being a spark of light, of divine light, and completely unique in their sparkness, if you could say it that way. So as a teacher, if you go into a classroom, or as a mother, if you have more than one child, you can see this. Every child expresses differently. And when that is acknowledged, then you have a foundation upon which to build, because they feel seen, they feel cherished, they feel valued, and then they relax and they kind of go with the flow, and they want to learn, they want to be there. So I think of it as a little campfire, that little spark of light, the soul that they are, and we blow on them with love and understanding and friendship and knowledge. And as we blow, as we put that energy out, that spark begins to shine brighter and brighter. And it's because we see them as souls. We do not see them just as minds. And I mean, that's a huge difference, don't you think?
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the beginning, and there are all kinds of stories that I could tell. I don't know if you had a chance to see the 100th year anniversary program that we put on here at Palo Alto.
I didn't get a chance to see that.
Well, I can understand why, if you have a 2-year-old. But I only had 15 minutes, and what can you do in 15 minutes? But that was one of the points that I really wanted to make, that if that's our starting point, then everything flows from seeing these individuals who come before us into our auras as these very special flows of light, sparks of light. Then almost anything is possible. And I have seen miracles. I've also seen little children who would be otherwise left behind or squashed, things that happen all the time, unfortunately. I've also seen them come to our school from another educational setting, having had those negative experiences. And when they get into an environment that's based on learning and joy, they suddenly let their light shine. They don't have to hide it because they're not afraid. And they feel seen, at the very least, but cherished and valued. So I've seen them come along in quite amazing ways. I can tell you one story, and this is a great example of a little boy who came from a very academic, well-known not public school, it was a private school in Oakland, California. He was in the 6th grade, and he was just not flourishing. His parents, one was a lawyer, taught in the law school at Stanford. Both were lawyers, actually. And he had 2 brothers who were excelling. So you can imagine that his sense of self had taken a hit. And when they talked to me about him, I didn't quite know what to make of him, but we went off to the side and had a little chat. And he was delightful, absolutely delightful. He had wit, and I knew instantly that this was a very intelligent little chap who knew how to make a joke. And he's in the 6th grade talking to the principal of a school. So I ended up accepting him. And I also became his language arts teacher in the middle school. Well, he was very highly dyslexic, and he had such a time just deciphering the written word and writing. So you can imagine that in a highly competitive school, that would come into play in a very negative way. But in our school, we just started where he was, and we valued him. He was a comedy actor like Robin Williams. He could take anything, make a joke of it, tell a story. He had the whole class laughing, sometimes at very, inconvenient times. But we just valued him and became his friend. He had a work ethic because he wanted to succeed. He just didn't know how. And once he came to us, there was some kind of, you could see him relax enough to realize that he was a valued member of our community, and his linguistic skills, even though they were oral, not written, could go a long way. And over 3 years, I had him in class. Gary had him for his other major subjects. He began to bloom. So then he graduates. He goes off to Palo Alto High School. And this is only one of many stories I could tell, but I mean, this is emblematic. He called me 4 years later, and he said, Helen, he said, I got a 4.0, and I'm graduating with a 4.0. Wow. And then he said, and I'm accepted at Stanford.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I said, really? I said, that is just fabulous, Peter.
Amazing.
He says to me, but I really couldn't have done it without you guys. And he said, and he made a point of that. He said, I'm thanking you because you sent me a raft and I was able to make my way.
Wow.
But he goes to Stanford and he graduates from Stanford.
Oh my gosh.
You could never, I would never have predicted that, except that I understood how intelligent he was. It's just that nobody had taken the time to just get that little spark of light and blow on it a bit.
That's so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
What led you, either in your career or your personal life, to make these discoveries about children, about what they need or how to approach it this way? Like, what led you to this point?
Well, part of it is the fact that I'm one of 9 children and grew up in a family that was like a school with a father and a mother who just loved to learn, so you have that modality going for you, but not every child has that. The other part of it is that I kind of fell into teaching. And so I've been teaching over 50 years. That's a lot of experience and a lot of water under the bridge. I didn't have the education for life philosophy when I first started teaching. But I knew that that was a direction, that there was something else out there than what I had grown up with. And then in '86, Swami Kriyananda invited a few of us, a small group, some of whom were teachers, some not, to talk about how he had just finished Education for Life, his book. He wanted to talk about how to get it out to the world. And so we spent time talking about it, and then we went out and we began to talk to other people about it. And as fate would have it, I ended up back in the classroom because I hadn't been teaching while I was living at the village. But later on, I was in Oregon living at that community. And I got a job teaching in a public school. And boy, was that enlightening in terms of the power of this philosophy, because I discovered that I could use all of the Education for Life principles, how you viewed the student, how you spoke with the student, what you expected of them, the adaptability of their modalities where they could shine, all of that, some of which is in mainstream education. But the idea that they're all sparks of light and part of the infinite, that's not part of mainstream education. And that's a layer that made a difference that was palpable in the classroom. The reason I know that is that the children told me. I was teaching high school at a big 2,000 plus student body right outside of Portland, Oregon. And I just had these kids from, their families were plumbers, they were store owners. It was really middle class area. We did amazing things that they said, oh, well, we're not going to read Shakespeare. We're just an ordinary class. We're not the accelerated class. And I said, oh, yeah, we're going to do it. I said, you're going to love it. And they did. But it was about me looking at them and just expecting and acknowledging their spirit. It was very spiritual, but I didn't use the terminology. Mm. One day, we have a tradition here of, at the end of every year, giving each student in the entire school a quality, a spiritual quality. We consider intelligence a spiritual quality, anything that makes them who they are, that they have developed and sometimes really worked hard at. So it could be anything from being courageous, being strong, being a better mathematician, expressing a sense of refinement, a love of music, all of those. Those are the qualities that we give. So I decided that I would give my public school students qualities at the end of the course. And I made it up on a big certificate, which is what we do here at Living Wisdom. The last day, I gave them out. And the students' reaction was so interesting because they didn't believe me. And I remember one girl who was just wonderful. She was bright and witty and responsive and all of those things that help make a class tick along. I had given her the quality of delight. And she put the certificate down and she said, "This can't be true." And I said, "But it is." I said, "Why would you say that?" She said, "Because I'm not always delightful." And I said, "Well, you were in my class." I said, "And even if it's true that you weren't always delightful, the quality still fits and you can aspire to be always delightful." And she just was stunned. And then little by little, all of the students chimed in and they said, "Yeah, that's true." And what that taught me was the power of seeing them as souls who have these amazing qualities which are not acknowledged in a typical learning environment. Not the way we would do it, not articulated in such a way that it's non-judgmental, it's celebratory, and it's true. So what it does is it opens them up because they do not have to be defensive to not only learning, but also to being much more than students, to being the persons that they really are. I had one little boy in this class. It's instructive to me because it's not in a Living Wisdom School, but it shows the power of the philosophy. He said to me, "Miss Purcell, this is the first class, and I'm a senior, that I ever felt like I could say something in class."
Wow.
And I was astonished, really. I hadn't known that. Last day of school. And I said, "Why do you think that is?" And he said, "Because you are so positive and you don't allow negativity in this class." Now, I would never have said it that way. It's not like I preached it or anything like that, but it is a way of being. And so in Education for Life, the teacher sets a tone, and if the tone is loving and open, it doesn't mean that you're not firm, that you don't correct as you go along, but the point of origin of the relationship is always, oh, this is another soul. And this soul is special, unique, destined for greatness in its way. And when the children feel that, it opens up an academic world to them that may have remained closed. Yeah.
So you're really setting the tone for the classroom.
You?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry?
Definitely. Yeah, it's like you're setting the tone for the classroom.
Fun's a lot of it too.
Mm.
Being spiritual is about being fun, having fun. Just enjoying life, that element of joy. I remember a long time ago here in Palo Alto, we were trying to come up for our advertising purposes with a tagline. You know how that is?
Yeah.
Just that would label us. And we were sitting in this office, and I had the faculty with me. So we were trying out little taglines. And I said something about, it has to be about learning and joy. And somebody else said, built on that. And eventually, in that 5-minute period, we came up with Living Wisdom School, where learning and joy come together.
I love
Sometime later, I was at it was a symposium. There were all of the admissions and administrative people from commensurate private schools in the area. And they were presenting to families, to parents, their schools. I was the last on the program. So when it was my turn, I got up and I said, you've heard so much about what these other fine schools have to offer. I said, I really can't add to that, except to say that at our school, everything that they said is true. And it's part of our philosophy that all the learning has to come together with joy. So Living Wisdom School, where learning and joy come together. And after that, we had another session with a different group of parents. Every single administrator addressed learning and joy.
Wow.
They took my talk. They stole it. But I thought, well, that is a form of flattery, because it's the teachers, that everybody's so hungry for that. They want to be real. They don't want to just be nose to the grindstone, trying to get the grades, saying, what do I have to do to get an A in this class, as opposed to, what can I learn?
Yeah. I love what you wrote in the document I was reading on the Palo Alto website. You spoke about how children need to feel comfortable and happy in their environment to learn. And I'd never read or heard anyone talk about that before. And I just felt like, wow, that makes perfect sense. It's amazing.
Isn't it true?
Yeah.
For us as adults, it's not just children. That, if you're not right, if you're not worried or anxious, then everything comes more easily. Yeah. See, this is what your 2-year-old has that a lot of other older kids don't. Your 2-year-old's all about learning everything. Getting into mischief in the process, probably.
Yeah, definitely, all the time. He's a professional mess maker.
Exactly. Yeah. A litmus test for a classroom that's a Living Wisdom School classroom, a true Living Wisdom School classroom, is whether or not the children want to come to school and be there. And that denotes a high level of comfort, personal comfort. We're not really talking about intelligence here at all, but a high level of comfort and acceptance, which leads children to the point where they can take a risk of failure. So it's no shame to fail. Oh, I didn't get the answer on this math problem right. That's one response. But in our school, it's oh, I see what I did wrong. Oh, that's great. Now I know. Do you see what I'm saying? And I'm sure when you talk to Gary, you should be sure to ask him about how he teaches math,
Okay.
because that's at the very core of it. Getting children where they are, step by step, creating an atmosphere where they can risk failure because they're loved. You know, for example, our report card, it's a very Education for Life report card. And our school rules, they're unbelievable spiritual principles. When I talk to prospective parents, I talk to them about Sanatam Dharma and what that means. We're not shy. I learned over the years not to be shy about sharing our spiritual principles because they are so universal. And then other things. I'll put together a packet and have them email you.
That would be wonderful. That's exactly what we're looking for. That's so great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then you have the 2 books, Education for Life. Do you have that one?
I have that one.
And do you have Head and Heart? That's
no.
You don't? That's from Bhakta, and Happiness and Success at School. This is all about our school. So
Wonderful.
I think those are online.
Are
but
they?
I'll see if I can. You could probably find the link better than I.
Okay. Do you think there's a PDF version of any of those books available?
You can read these books online. You don't have to buy them.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I don't know about Education for Life.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. So I had one question was, do teachers, to be able to teach the Education for Life curriculum or teach at the Living Wisdom School, do they need to have a formal background in education, or what is sort of the credentials that you look for teachers?
It differs.
Yeah.
Just like the children, everybody's an individual.
Mm-hmm.
However, we offer our own credential. And so it's an Education for Life credential. And we offer teachers, and we're looking for teachers, a paid internship to come and be with a very veteran teacher here in our school all through the day, just to learn the ropes. They learn everything from the philosophy to the practice. And then, let's see, Kashama, do you know Kashama?
Yeah.
She came through that program. Craig came through that program. Satyavati, do you know Satyavati?
I don't.
Oh, but she came through that program. Yeah, so many of our teachers.
So they didn't have a formal education background beforehand?
They did. They had, well, it depended. Some of them have all of the normal things that you would have, short of a master's or a PhD. But most of them have a college education. Every now and then, for example, life experience means a lot to us, and spiritual depth means a lot. So in that category, we have Gary McSweeney, whom I don't know if you know,
yeah,
but he's been teaching here for 20 years. And he is just a superb Education for Life teacher. So one of the things, that differentiates us, I think, is the emphasis we place on using our intuition that is refined through meditation. And we ask teachers to have a spiritual practice if they're going to be an Education for Life teacher. They don't have to have our spiritual practice, mine, Swami Kriyananda, master, but a spiritual practice. And from that comes a deepening of intuition, which allows us to intuit what it is that a child needs. And it grows over time with experience, but connecting with a child as a soul is different than connecting with a child as a mind. Does that make any sense to you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I only
Yeah.
wish
So
that I had been part of a Education for Life school growing up myself.
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the more education for life teachers we could get, the better. Uh, Everybody, they're just needed. And I know that being an EFL teacher works wherever you are, but it is so much more vibrant in a Living Wisdom school or an Education for Life school where everybody's doing the same thing. That was what was so exciting about the EFL conference, just to see how it's catching fire all over the world and people are so interested. So what you're doing is a true gift. You're doing your part, Clarity.
Thank, thank you. So, what would you have to say to, let's say someone's listening to this and they're interested in adopting the EFL philosophy as a teacher or as a parent? What's a good way to get started?
They should read the Education for Life book by J. Donald Walters. Then they should go online and find the Education for Life courses that are offered by Nitai and Usha and others. And if it's at all possible for them to connect with an Education for Life school, then they can do that. So I don't have, no school can have a lot of interns, but we have one or two interns every year. And that's how we will feed the system.
Is there plans for Palo Alto School to open up this September, or what's the plans going forward with what's going on in the world right now?
We desperately want to open up.
Yeah.
Although I have to say that our teachers were so creative and dedicated when we closed in March, and they never missed a beat. We went through every day as if it were a normal day, only online.
Wow.
And they even had PE online. You know, we did Friday Circle online. We had yoga classes online. We had instrument classes online, but it's not the same. It's not the same as sharing that in-person vibration. And the children missed it too. They missed each other terribly. So yes, we desperately want to do that. Our county has offered waivers, and that's what I was doing all today until 5 minutes before I talked to you. We have an application. It's extremely legal. It's a legalese thing from start to finish. So the county is offering waivers that will allow us to open if we meet their conditions. And that's what we're trying to do.
Wow.
So it do with physical distancing, taking our school outside to the degree that we can, all of the precautions we take in terms of cleaning. I mean, it's very detailed,
I'm sure.
but we're doing it. And you know, I have high hopes that we're going to be able to open. So we will.
That's
And
wonderful.
of course, there's some children who won't be able to come because they're compromised. You know, if you have asthma, that would be a tough thing to risk. But the school community is vibrant and our parents are wonderful. They really appreciate what we give their children. And we also we have many cultures in our school. So it really is Sanatan Dharma. We have Jewish people, we have Catholic people, we have Hindus, we have Buddhists, you know, and on and on. So our parents have learned to trust the school in that respect and to contribute in many creative ways. One of which is they put on celebrations for their particular holidays. So we have the Festival of Lights, Diwali, for the Indians, and it involves education of the other children. What are the stories? You know, what is the dance? What are the costumes? And then, of course, it always ends with food. So, but it's a living example of how the ray of light that comes from the divine takes on all these different forms, all of which are equally true. So when they do that, they're really living Sanatana Dharma. And
So beautiful.
it is really beautiful. Very, very satisfying to be an Education for Life teacher. It's a vocation.
It really seems like having a school really creates a community too, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. And it's a community that sparkles with joy and light. Our parents love our school, and they celebrate it as much as the teachers do. And the teachers love being here. It's just different from teaching in other schools. And I've done that. I've taught in many different schools, and I've loved it. I've loved the children. But teaching in an Education for Life school is like a little passport to heaven, in the sense that you get to work with the deepest realities every day. You know, you're experiencing the joy of giving, but you receive so much in return. The children are extremely loving, you know, and they're children. They get in trouble, but then we laugh about it, you know, once it's all settled. We hold them to a high standard. It's not always hunky-dory. It's work, just like any devotee. And yet, underlying it all is a sense of peace that comes from knowing that your deepest truths are being recognized, the deepest truth of who you are. And also the highest the highest goal that one could have for oneself is being recognized in a beautiful way. Wow. Not in a pejorative way at all. Wow. Oh, you might say to a student, I can see once you get this, you are really going to fly. You know, so it's all about, a lot of it is about language. A lot of it is, how do you express the student's next step? Is it punitive or is it transcendent? So transcendence, really, that ability to be the best you can be, is articulated in many, many different ways, especially our school rules.
Your school what?
Rules.
Rules, okay.
You go online and you see them. They're all spiritual principles, really, but they're rules. Two of them, the two that we really emphasize in the lower grades are, number one, choose happiness. And that means when you get out of bed on the wrong side, you can change your energy. Think about that. And it's not about timeout. It's about, oh, go into the special little place that we have and grab your teddy bear and just sit there and be quiet for a moment and find that happy place inside of you, because you lost it somewhere between home and school. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they do it because there's all the support for it. And then that translates over and over again at ever more sophisticated levels, so that children in middle school, we can challenge them to be happy and to think of what we mean. And then the other one is practice kindness. And we have parents who take our school rules to work and post them in their offices, because they are universal and they are not age related. Practicing kindness is all about being a good friend. It's all about being receptive to whoever's in front of you, whether it's a teacher or another student. It's about solving the problem in a game so that other kids can enjoy themselves. You know, it's an extremely deep spiritual principle, but it's so simple to articulate, not so simple to do.
That's
but
so beautiful.
Conflict resolution, you know, along with it. So two children get into it, and then the teacher will take them through a conflict resolution. And ultimately, it's about, well, you can't enjoy yourself if the other person is enjoying themselves. And that's the first rule, enjoy yourself. So, you know, these are all very layered rules.
It seems so practical too at the same time. It's so practical, yet these are values that you know, are going to be ingrained in them for the rest of their lives. Beautiful values. It's just
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. It's, sometimes when I'm in another school and I notice their school rules, I feel for the children because it's like no chewing gum, no running in the halls. It's all about no.
Yeah.
And we're about yes, yes to life, affirm the good. Makes all the difference.
Amazing. It's just so beautiful. I've been to visit the school a couple times, as you know.
I remember.
I just remember it's just like, it's really like a little heaven on earth. And it's just the ideal for what you'd really imagine or want any school to be. And it's just such a beautiful, shining example. And I hope more and more of these types of schools can start sparking up, because it's really, really needed right now, I think, more than anything.
Yes, teachers are looking for alternatives and also for systems, educational systems that support the humanity of the child in front of you more than just the intellect.
What would you say if there was an individual who really felt compelled or drawn to start something like this, but they're just one person? Would you say that it's possible, or what's your thought?
Oh, I would say go for it.
Yeah.
Definitely go for it. There's nothing to stop one. That's so unusual that one would want to start up a school, but I'm all for it. And also, I also know that you can be in a regular school and create a living wisdom school in your classroom. No question at all. And there are some education for life teachers out there that don't know their education for life. They don't, but they come from that point of interiority of joy and happiness and seeing all the good in children and supporting and being affirmative, all of that. That's just an education for life, but they don't have a context for it. And they sometimes are very isolated. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing today. There's just so much wisdom here, so much beautiful sharing and knowledge and stories. I can't wait to post this online on YouTube so more people can view it.
Oh gosh. You're not going to take the best.
I will. I'll do a little bit of editing, and that was the part where I didn't plug in my laptop.
Oh, Clarity, this is a wonderful thing that you're doing.
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you.
happy that you're doing it. It's a great anything that we can do together to get the word out is all to the good, really. And I think the world is ready for it.
I think so too. I think the timing is really here, and it just feels like it feels so great right now to be working on this project. So, well, thank you so much, Helen. I really appreciate you taking time out. I know you're very busy. You have a lot going on there. So,
Well, you just caught me at that crux moment.
I understand.
It was a lot of fun just sharing with you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks.
And whatever I can do to help you.
Thank you so much. I'll be in touch, and I'm looking forward to getting those documents from your secretary. So thank you.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.